My CEO husband thinks pregnant women have zero intelligence. So any expense I spend over £100 requires his approval. The day I had signs of a miscarriage, he rejected my £3,000 surgery request. Do you know £3,000 is a month's living expenses for many people? I don't earn money for you to leech off me. Without timely surgery, I couldn't save our baby. As I came out of the operating theater, his childhood sweetheart, who had just returned to the country, posted on Twitter. The photo showed the heart of the ocean necklace worth £5 million. The caption read, "Thank you for spoiling me recklessly, just like when we were young." She tagged Denzel Miller. I didn't make a scene like I used to. Instead, I liked the post. That's nice. Let him spoil you for a lifetime. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. What did you mean by that comment you left for Vivian? Denzel's voice was sharp through the phone. Everyone was having a good time, and because of what you said. She's been feeling guilty ever since. She just got back from abroad. What's wrong with me giving her a gift? We've been friends since childhood. Can't you stop being so jealous without? Before he could finish saying reason, I cut him off. Is that so? I'm sorry then. It won't happen again. There was a sudden pause on the other end. In the past, whenever we argued about Vivian Lennox, I would always make a big fuss, demanding an explanation from him. Although each time it ended badly, and I was always the one most hurt afterwards. I still couldn't help wanting him to prove himself the next time. Especially after getting pregnant. This was the first time I accepted his accusations without any argument. He didn't know that this miscarriage had already made me reconsider our relationship. I hung up the phone without waiting for his response. I had just deleted that comment when Denzel called again. This time his tone was much softer. I didn't mean to blame you, it's just, never mind. Where are you? At the hospital. All right, you probably don't have money for a cab, right? I'll come pick you up. The hospital corridor was dark and without air conditioning. It was a bit cold on this snowy Christmas Eve. My reddened hands involuntarily gripped the phone tighter, suddenly feeling the irony of the situation. Aren't you curious why I'm at the hospital? I could hear Vivian crying on the other end of the line. Denzel, is Ariana still angry with me? Was I really that awful? But I never meant for her to misunderstand. I feel terrible right now. Can you stay with me? I spoke coldly, Denzel. He had just said he would come pick me up. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I'll send a driver to pick you up. Then he hung up. Listening to the hollow beeping on the other end, I closed my phone and buried my face in my hands. As expected, I was once again the one left behind. Just like always. But for some reason, I couldn't shed a single tear. I didn't even feel sad. I just felt a little sorry for myself. I stood at the hospital entrance. The cold wind whipping through my only long down coat, sending chills through my body. A taxi driver, eager to get home, stopped and rolled down his window. Need a ride home? I can take you for free to your Christmas dinner. I smiled softly. Thank you, someone's coming for me. Taxis passed one after another, but Denzel's driver hadn't arrived. He'd probably forgotten about me again. Instead of bombarding him with calls as I used to, demanding he come pick me up immediately, I raised my hand to hail a passing taxi. I knew I had no money on me, but I couldn't bring myself to make a scene with him again. As the car approached the entrance of the neighborhood, suddenly the sky erupted with massive fireworks, their brilliance claiming half the night sky. I froze, and the taxi driver explained with a smile. I heard Mrs. Miller was upset. So Mr. Miller specially arranged this fireworks show for her. Mrs. Miller? I turned to look at the driver, who nodded. Yes, I heard she just returned to the country today. There was a misunderstanding about Mr. Miller and another woman. So Mr. Miller splurged on this for his beauty. I heard each firework costs £10,000. And Mr. Miller booked the whole show, TSK. So I was the other woman. I lowered my gaze and smiled silently to myself as the driver continued his musings. It's good when rich people splurge, us ordinary folk get to enjoy the fireworks too. I looked out the window, indeed. Such a grand display of affection, it was hard to tell who the real Mrs. Miller was. No wonder picking me up paled in comparison to pleasing his beauty. Miss? Miss? The driver's voice pulled me back to reality. He smiled apologetically, "You haven't paid yet." Oh. I took off my diamond ring and placed it on the passenger seat. "Keep the change." Oh. Miss. Miss. It's too much. Miss. The driver kept calling after me. I walked into the neighborhood without looking back. Just as I was about to step into the pitch-black villa, a huge burst of light suddenly bloomed behind me. I turned around to see even more dazzling sparks converging into a giant rose, blossoming in midair. The drones formed a message in the night sky. Love like youth, sparing no expense. I imagined that his childhood sweetheart, far away, must have covered her mouth in awe. The spectacular fireworks illuminated half the city, leaving only me in the shadows. I stepped forward into the area lit by the fireworks. This warmth was created by my husband for another woman. I briefly borrowed some of the glow, clasping my hands together, and faced the sky full of fireworks. Merry Christmas, Ariana Gill. Returning to the cold, empty townhouse, I curled up on the sofa and dialed my best friend, Monica's number. Her gentle voice answered, "Short on cash again? How much do you need?" My eyes welled up with tears. Every time Denzel rejected my important financial requests, Monica would cover the expenses for me. I shook my head, "It's not that." I was wondering if the company still has any openings. There was a full 5 seconds of silence on the other end. Then, Monica asked in disbelief, "Are you coming back? Have you changed your mind?" Yes. Monica and I had started a company together after graduation. When business was booming, I met Denzel Miller, who was negotiating a deal with us and had been my secret crush since university. Those days were wonderful. After closing a deal, he'd drive me back to the office. One day, as I was walking away after getting out of the car, he suddenly called out, "Would you consider not working anymore?" I laughed. "If I don't work, are you going to support me?" "I will support you." Monica had repeatedly advised me that women shouldn't give up their careers, especially when the company was in a strong growth phase. She painted vivid pictures of the company's future success and how I could become a millionaire. But back then, I just blushed and said, "If it's him, I'm willing to be a housewife." I gave all my shares to Monica and devoted myself to being his supportive partner. But I kept finding myself abandoned and alone. "Of course we need you." Monica's voice cracked a bit. "Are you serious? This isn't just because you had a fight with him, is it?" I chuckled softly. "I swear to you, it's not." "Well, I've been thinking about opening an overseas branch. We need someone with your pioneering spirit. Would you be willing to go abroad with me?" "Absolutely." "Brilliant. Start preparing for your IELTS then. You just need a 6. I'll help you study. We'll leave next month." After hanging up the phone, I dug out my long-forgotten GCSE English revision guide. I should have taken the exam ages ago, but then I met Denzel. My English skills were average at best, so I needed to start revising immediately. Still weak from the recent surgery, I wrapped myself in a blanket and sat in the study, poring over essay structures. Before I knew it, I had dozed off at the desk. Half asleep, I heard some commotion outside the door. "Your wife won't be angry with me for sending you home, will she?" a woman's voice asked. Denzel's slightly slurred voice followed. "No, she'll just cry and beg me not to leave her." "Oh. Careful, Denzel." A startled cry rang out as the study door burst open, jolting me fully awake. Denzel was leaning heavily on Vivian, reeking of alcohol. He looked up and saw me sitting at the desk. "You're back?" I asked, rubbing my eyes and stifling a yawn. Vivian suddenly let go of Denzel, panicking. "I'm so sorry, Ariana. Denzel had too much to drink." There were no taxis around, so "Oh, thank you," I said, cutting her off with a light chuckle. I stepped forward and took her hand. Your hands are freezing. Thank you for bringing him back. Vivian froze. Even Denzel furrowed his brow. Ariana, what's with the sarcasm? I'm not being sarcastic, I replied. Ariana, I really didn't mean to. Vivian suddenly burst into tears. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Please don't let this affect you and Denzel. I pushed a hot water bottle into Vivian's hands, interrupting her again. Here, take this. You don't want to catch a chill. Vivian fell silent, clutching the hot water bottle. She looked at me, a hint of resentment in her eyes. I turned and walked towards the bedroom. If you don't mind, you can sleep in the guest room tonight. I'm tired, so I'll leave you too. Good night. With that, I entered the bedroom and closed the door. Outside, the two of them stood frozen in place. I had barely closed my eyes when the bedroom door behind me opened. Ariana. At first, it was just a gentle call. I was feeling drowsy and didn't want to respond. Ariana Gill, I know you're not asleep, Denzel said, his tone slightly annoyed. I reluctantly opened my eyes. What is it? I've sent her home. Oh, you didn't let her stay the night then? His brow furrowed. Ariana, we grew up together. I hope you're not getting jealous over nothing. Jealous? What for? I laughed. I was just thinking it might not be safe for a girl to drive home so late. Denzel was taken aback. I turned back to sleep. I felt his warm body press against my back, his breath tickling my ear. Don't you have anything else to say? With my eyes still closed, I mumbled, like what? Usually, you have a lot to say at times like this. I opened my eyes. It's true, every time I saw him with another woman, I would go mad with jealousy, demanding he prove himself to me. You grew up together, what's there for me to be jealous about? Denzel's muscles tensed. For the first time in our relationship, he was the one left speechless. As I was drifting off, I felt a hand on my waist. I flinched, quickly blocking his advance. I don't want to. He hugged me from behind. It's all right, didn't the last checkup say it was okay? I gripped his hand tightly. Aren't you at all curious about why I went to the hospital today? My financial request clearly stated it was for surgery. But he hadn't asked me once how I was feeling. He chuckled. I know, you're upset I didn't accompany you for the prenatal checkup. Let me make it up to you now, okay? I don't want to, I said, wrapping the duvet tightly around myself. I told you I'm tired. In my relationship with Denzel, I've always been the one to accommodate his every whim. I'm perpetually the one begging him to do things, never refusing anything. The muscles of the person behind me gradually tensed. Ariana, you're always the one begging me to touch you, he said. Is that so? Well, that won't be necessary anymore. He fell silent after that. Moments later, I was startled awake by a loud bang as the bedroom door slammed shut. I turned around to find the bed empty, his presence gone. After slamming the bedroom door, he left the house. Soon after, I heard the sound of a car engine starting. I didn't chase after him. Nor did I send him an apologetic message as I usually would after upsetting him. Instead, I could finally lie down in bed peacefully and get a good night's sleep. The next day, Denzel didn't come home at all. I didn't check on him as I used to. Instead, I met with Monica to discuss the next steps. When she learned I was planning to divorce, she was so moved she nearly cried. I knew you'd come to your senses. You should never have been trapped between pots and pans, having to report every pound you spend. I smiled as Denzel called. It's dark already. Where are you? I paused, surprised. You're home? Usually after an argument. He'd leave me at home for at least a week until I'd completely lost my temper. I didn't have an income yet, so Monica helped me get a taxi. Just as I reached the front door, brilliant fireworks suddenly lit up the night sky. I looked up, seeing the same display as last night. As I was mesmerized by the sight, a Rolls-Royce stopped in front of me, and a familiar figure stepped out. Denzel smiled at me. Do you like it? Is this for me? What, did you think I'd forgotten about you? He stood beside me as we watched the sky together. I drank a bit too much last night. I sent the driver home earlier for Christmas dinner, so Vivian drove me back. I hope you don't mind. It's beautiful, I said, entranced by the fireworks. Denzel called my name. Ariana. I turned. There was a hint of displeasure in his brow, but he finally sighed. I know you're upset that I arranged a fireworks show for her. But she just got back to the country, and after your comment. Why would I be upset? I chuckled lightly. I can see the fireworks you gave her too. Isn't that nice? Ariana. He was stunned. Anyway, thank you. This one's even better than last night's. He studied my expression. You're not angry? What's there to be angry about? You two grew up together, and she just returned. Of course you'd dote on her. Denzel stood there, dumbfounded. After a moment, his usually cold eyes showed what seemed to be a hint of guilt. He moved closer, standing shoulder to shoulder with me, and put his arm around my shoulders. Let's go on a trip. You've been cooped up at home long enough. I thought about my upcoming IELTS exam and shook my head. No, thanks. I'm fine at home. The arm around me stiffened. But I've already booked everything. Then find someone else to go. Ariana, he frowned, I chose an intimate package, customized for couples. I looked up. The fireworks reflected in his eyes. If he had told me a few days ago that he'd put in the effort to plan a romantic trip for us, I probably would have jumped into his arms with joy. After all, I used to revel in being Mrs. Miller, wanting everyone to know we were a couple. But now, I just smiled gently. Thank you for the thought. But I really can't go. His face was full of disbelief. I gently pushed his hand away. It's too cold out here. Let's go inside. I turned and opened the door. But when I looked back, Denzel hadn't followed me. Instead, he got into the car, slamming the door shut with a loud bang. Then he started the engine and drove away. He was always like this. Whenever we had a disagreement, he'd leave me where I stood. Then block all my contacts, waiting for me to exhaust my emotions on my own. Before returning home without grudges to a me who no longer had the energy to argue. But this time, I didn't send a single message. I opened the door and went inside. Denzel hadn't been home for an entire week. I didn't ask about it. Every day, I just had afternoon tea with Monica, memorized vocabulary, and practiced my speaking skills. I also successfully completed my onboarding and received an advance on my salary from Monica. The equity transfer will take some time, but I promise you'll get it all back eventually. Since your wedding, our company shares have increased quite a bit. Monica excitedly told me about the company's growth over the years. The more I listened, the more emotional I became. You've worked so hard all these years. Just as I finished speaking, I heard a notification sound from Twitter for a special alert. I opened it to see a post from Vivian Lennox. In the past, I was always very concerned about Denzel's relationship with his childhood friend abroad, as he would invariably visit her whenever he traveled overseas. I was torn between not wanting them to be too close and being curious about what had happened between them. So, rather awkwardly, I had set Vivian as a special alert on Twitter. In her post, she was wearing sunglasses, sitting in a helicopter, and had taken a selfie with her arm linked with someone else's. The caption read, "Who says childhood friends can't have an intimate trip?" Although only an arm was visible of the person next to her. I immediately recognized Denzel's Patek Philippe watch. I didn't call to question why he was with Vivian. I simply liked the post and removed Vivian from my special alerts. Just as I put down my phone, Denzel called. "I'll be home for dinner tonight." "Oh," I replied, not quite understanding his meaning. "Shall I save some food for you?" Denzel's voice carried a hint of restraint. "Ariana, don't you understand what I mean?" I didn't answer. He hung up. We didn't have a housekeeper. Denzel thought it would encourage my lazy habits. When I got home, I prepared dinner for two and sent him a message. "What time will you be back?" He didn't reply. I didn't wait foolishly until late at night as I used to. Instead, I ate my portion of the meal. After waiting a while longer with no word from him, I had no choice but to wrap his portion in cling film and put it in the fridge. I needed to study my vocabulary. I didn't have time to deal with him. However, studying at home seemed a bit inconvenient. I decided to go to the library tomorrow. That way, I wouldn't have to worry about him disturbing me when he came home. The next day, I went to the library. By the time hunger struck, dusk had fallen outside the window. I suddenly realized that I hadn't thought about Denzel all day. It turns out I don't necessarily need him to have my own mental world. Just as I was pondering this, Denzel called. "You're not at home?" "I'm at the library." "Do you need something?" He paused before speaking. "Let's talk." "I'll come pick you up." Indeed, we did have some things to discuss. I was actually wanting to find him too. All right. By the time I had packed up my things and gone downstairs, Denzel's car was already parked at the entrance. I habitually reached for the passenger door when a startled cry rang out. "Oh my! Ariana!" Vivian was bent over, a lipstick in her hand. "I'm so sorry, Ariana." My hair got tangled in Denzel's sleeve while I was picking up my lipstick. "Please don't misunderstand." Despite her words, the way she casually adjusted her neckline and the challenging glance she shot me betrayed her lack of sincerity. Denzel looked at me, then raised his hand to gently untangle Vivian's hair, his movements soft and careful. As Vivian straightened up, he even shielded her head with his hand. At the same time, he glanced up at me. His cold gaze held a hint of inquiry, as if trying to capture something in my expression. I didn't question why he had brought Vivian along, or why she was sitting in the front seat. Nor did I ask him to explain why Vivian's hair had become so tightly tangled. I just smiled nonchalantly. "You two are childhood friends, what's there to misunderstand?" Then I opened the back door and got in. After settling my bag, I noticed Denzel watching me through the rearview mirror, his brows furrowed low. I didn't know what he was angry about. Was it because I hadn't made a fuss like before, demanding he prove his innocence? "What's wrong?" I asked. He seemed to have words caught in his throat, which finally dissolved into a heavy sigh as he started the engine. "Nothing." Vivian glanced at him cautiously, then shot me a look through the rearview mirror, her face slightly displeased. "Shall we go out for dinner today?" Denzel asked as he drove. Vivian nodded immediately. "Yes. Let's go to that Italian restaurant we used to visit. I haven't been there in ages. I wonder if that lovely waitress is still working there." Denzel chuckled softly. "Vivian, I was asking Ariana. I was listening to a language podcast with my earphones in when I heard my name." "Me?" I asked, startled. "Yes." Denzel caught my eye in the rearview mirror. "How about we go to the French restaurant where we had our first date?" "What do you think?" Vivian's face darkened. I shrugged. "Whatever works." Denzel kept looking at me through the mirror, as if expecting me to say more. Seeing that I had no intention of continuing, he seemed to sigh softly. His grip on the steering wheel tightened, betraying his frustration. Vivian gently placed her hand on his forearm, cooing softly, "Denzel." "Shut up!" Denzel snapped in a low voice. I was taken aback. This was the first time he had ever lost his temper with Vivian, especially considering they hadn't seen each other in a while. Vivian lowered her head, looking hurt. Denzel glared at me through the rearview mirror. Suddenly, Vivian clutched her stomach. "Denzel, it hurts." I noticed Denzel's hand hesitate. "What's wrong?" Vivian clutched the fabric over her stomach. "I don't know. It just hurts so much." "Can you take me to the hospital, please?" Going to the hospital meant deviating from their original route. The nearest hospital was over 10 miles away. Denzel glanced at me through the rearview mirror. "But I can't take it anymore. Please. I need help." Denzel gripped the steering wheel tightly, then slammed on the brakes. "Ariana, get out of the car." The same old script. Between Vivian and me, I'm always the one being left behind. But this time, instead of making a scene, I simply opened the car door and got out. Oh, all right. Denzel was stunned. I turned to walk away, and he lowered the car window. Ariana. I looked back, and he hesitated for a moment. I'll come home for dinner tonight. I paused, surprised. Better not. I think Vivian needs your care. Why don't you two order takeaway at the hospital? Are you jealous? Not at all, I answered sincerely. But I thought I saw a flicker of disappointment in Denzel's eyes. Perhaps I was mistaken. If you really want to come back, I can order takeaway for you in advance, I said. He paused again. About the finances. I've lifted the restrictions. From now on, you can spend up to £5,000 as you wish. Oh, thanks, but that's not necessary. I gave a small smile and turned to leave. After returning home, Denzel didn't come back for the entire evening, nor did he send any messages. I didn't ask about it either. I simply revised the papers I had worked on during the day and went to sleep. For a whole week, until my IELTS speaking test was over, Denzel hadn't sent me a single message. And I, it seemed, had almost forgotten about him in the midst of my intense exam preparations. It wasn't until that day, after my follow-up check at the hospital, that I saw Vivian at the entrance. Denzel wasn't with her. I smiled politely and said, "Discharged and recovering well?" She didn't speak. Instead, she walked towards me in her high heels and thrust a paper at me. I looked closely. It was a pregnancy test result. Vivian was 3 months pregnant. 3 months. It coincided perfectly with the time Denzel had gone abroad to negotiate a project 3 months ago. It's his and mine, Vivian said coldly, lifting her chin as she looked at me. I think you know what to do. You should know better than I do who Denzel will choose between you and me. 3 months. I looked at the description of stable fetus on the pregnancy test result. Chuckling softly, my eyes involuntarily welling up. My little one, who had just been lost, was only 3 months old too. Suddenly, the test result was snatched away. Vivian put her hand behind her back, her smile somewhat nervous. Oh, you're back so soon? Denzel turned to look at me. There were still traces of tears in the corners of my eyes. Mr. Miller, I said. I usually called him Denzel. I only called him Mr. Miller when we were in the early stages of discussing business cooperation. He frowned slightly and reached towards Vivian's back. What are you hiding? Ah, and nothing. Let me see. Denzel easily took the pregnancy test result from her. Looking at the test result, then at me, he suddenly smiled. Is this why you're crying? I didn't say anything. For some reason, his smile seemed somewhat relieved, and his tone regained its usual controlling nature. I was planning to tell you later. I was worried you might get jealous while carrying the baby. I won't, I smiled through my tears. I've already consulted a lawyer about the divorce. When you have time, let's get it done. I wasn't crying because Denzel had betrayed me. It was because I was reminded of the child I had lost. Denzel was stunned. What did you say? You two talk. I have something to do. With that, I pushed past Denzel, hailed a taxi, and left. That evening, Denzel came home. A table lamp was lit in the living room. I had been dozing off while reading on the sofa, but immediately woke up when I heard the door open. He stood at the doorway. I've made an appointment for your prenatal checkup tomorrow. Thank you, but that won't be necessary. I have other plans tomorrow. I'll go with you, he added, sounding a bit anxious. I shook my head. That won't be necessary either. I started walking towards the bedroom. As I passed by him, he reached out and grasped my hand. In our 3 years of marriage, it was the first time he had held my hand so tightly. When you saw that pregnancy test result today, didn't you have anything to say? I didn't know what he wanted to hear. What should I say? The hand holding mine trembled slightly. Denzel's voice also had a hint of shakiness. What about all those things you used to say? In the past, if I had seen a positive pregnancy test, I probably would have been so angry that I'd have trashed the house. And had a huge row with him, wouldn't I? I sighed. What's the point of saying anything now? Ariana. Feeling that I was about to leave, he quickly pulled me back. The pregnancy test was fake. I just wanted to make you angry. I silently pushed his hand away. Turning around, I took out my medical records from the drawer and handed them to him. But the loss of our child is real. The medical record book fell to the floor with a thud when he saw the latest page. That day when I asked for £3,000, it was for prenatal care. My voice was calm, without any resentment. As if I was talking about something that happened long ago and didn't concern me. Later, it was too late, and I had to have a surgical abortion. His breathing was shaky. He knew that the delay was because he had rejected my request. So for all these days, you've been punishing me like this, is that it? He asked, looking at me with reddened eyes. I shook my head. It's in the past. Don't overthink it. A look of despair appeared in his eyes. Don't overthink it, these were the words he always used to say to me. But I didn't mean to argue with him by using this phrase. It was just how I genuinely felt. Turning around, I closed the bedroom door. I lay in bed for a long time before I heard footsteps moving away outside the door. I have my IELTS written test tomorrow. I closed my eyes and quickly fell asleep. The next day, after finishing my exams and returning home, I found Denzel unusually waiting for me. As he saw me, his eyes were slightly red at the corners. Ariana, he called, his voice a bit hoarse as he approached me, slipping a gold credit card into my hand. From now on, you can spend my money as you wish. Looking at the card, I remembered he once said all his savings were kept on this card. During the worst days of our arguments over Vivian, I wasn't even allowed to touch this card. Thank you, but it's not necessary, I said, placing the card back in his hand. He looked at me, his hand refusing to grasp the card. It took quite an effort to make him finally hold on to it. Ariana. Oh, Mr. Miller. Here are the expense reports I've submitted to you during our 3 years of marriage. I took out a stack of financial documents clipped together from my bag. Over 3 years, I've requested a total of £6,721, with interest, let's round it up to £7,500. I've recently found a job, so I'm paying you back this amount. As I spoke, I pulled out a bundle of £100 notes. Placing both the money and the documents on the table, I looked at him. Mr. Miller, if you're not sure, you can call the accountant to verify. He stared blankly for a moment. Then, as if gone mad, he grabbed the stack of documents, flipping through them rapidly page by page. Each sheet clearly showed the date, amount, and purpose, along with the finance department's stamp. He examined the stack of papers over and over for a long time, finally crumpling them in his palm in near despair. Is this all you've requested in all this time? Yes. In 3 years, the money he spent on me was less than the cost of a single welcome home gift for Vivian. Yet he had always worried I was bleeding him dry. He sat on the sofa, arms propped on his thighs, suddenly looking much more haggard. I sat beside him as he hung his head, letting out an almost inaudible, "I'm sorry." "It's all right." I placed the divorce papers in front of him. Denzel looked up, startled by the divorce papers in front of him. I stood up. "You can think it over. I'll come back in 3 days." I started walking towards the door. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Oh, I've rented a flat. I'm planning to move out today." "But isn't this your home?" Denzel suddenly stood up. I glanced around the room. "I suppose it was, once." He froze, then turned to look around, only now realizing that all my belongings had been packed away. He grabbed my arm, his eyes red-rimmed. "How could you leave without telling me? Who said you could go without even saying goodbye?" I looked at him. "I've been packing for 2 weeks. If you paid the slightest bit of attention, you wouldn't think I was deliberately hiding it from you." His hand went limp. 2 weeks ago, he had been out with Vivian, enjoying the trip. Ariana. His voice trembled. "There's never been anything between us. I just love you too much. Everything I did was to make you unable to leave me." I never thought about separating from you. Vivian is just like a sister to me. These past few days, I've only been acting that way with her to make you jealous. I pried his fingers off my arm one by one and turned the doorknob. Sign it when you're ready, or we'll have to meet in court. During the 3 days I stayed with Monica, Denzel kept sending me messages. From our first meeting photo to our wedding scene. And even the ultrasound scan I sent him when I was pregnant. He dug up all the fragments of our past, trying to evoke my memories. But in 3 years, there were only a few moments worth remembering. On the contrary, the things I couldn't bear to recall were countless. I screenshot the chat logs of our arguments. When he repeatedly abandoned me for Vivian and sent them to him. In no time, there were over 99 of them. Denzel didn't reply after that. 3 days later, he signed the revised agreement and gave it to me. I originally only asked for 30% of the assets, as I indeed lived a comfortable life for these 3 years. But he allocated 70% to me. His eyes were sunken with dark circles, and stubble had grown on his usually well-groomed face. He looked at me and said, "I limited your spending just to keep you by my side forever. But I was wrong. Now that you're leaving, money means nothing to me. Consider it compensation for our unborn child." I didn't refuse. I no longer had any feelings for him, and I had no reason to reject his concession. The day I left, Vivian called me. "Ariana, I won't compete with you for Denzel anymore. Could you please help me and put in a good word for me? He's blocked me now, I can't contact him at all. And he's taken back all the gifts he gave me. I don't even have a place to stay now. He only listens to you now. Could you please help me? I'm standing on the street alone and don't know where to go." I sighed, "I can't help you. Because I've blocked him too." I hung up after saying that and promptly blocked her number. Monica was ahead, pulling her suitcase. She turned back, "Hurry up. The plane's about to take off." I followed her, dragging my suitcase. "Coming!"